Time to set the stage with the lights off. Let the little nigga breathe till the fight's lost. You ain't never like the room with the bright sauce. Hail Mary, they despise what the light brought. Let them roach niggas bleed if they can't see. sa.neter TV, what you can't be. They say that murder on my mind, now they can't breathe. Take a picture of the crew, that's your last peep. Oh, I need me your love, yeah, that's just me. Keep them jumping like some frogs, so they might be leave when the sun sets. And they don't really wanna bleed from the gunplay. And like mine, nigga smoking weed on the one-way street, nigga. Yeah, we see we outside with it. Pull up to debates like we might be with it on guard. Side these niggas like bullshit and they fraud. Let me chop them down with the sword. Walk them down like they live bars. This the toughest you gon' be in, we too hard. And you don't really want that smoke, my G. With sa.neter TV, this the toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in, toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in, toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in, toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in, the toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in, toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Keep that off your lip before you get flipped. We got sources over here, we don't just spit. Too many bosses over here, y'all just legit. Put them niggas in the game, let them get real. Don't even step unless you come in with that scholarship. That economic tip, gotta make a dollar flip. And I might be next, I don't give a damn, a truth rolling with me, so I'm feeling like the son of man. Too many gon' hate, gotta make a stand. I'm just trying to duck the lake, you don't understand. Read them when I greet them, that's my best plan. Head first shit, I'm just saying. Nigga meet me in LA, oh you just playing. Too many be fake, what the base saying. So I tell them they don't want no smoke before they end up in the newspaper next day. Smoke, this the toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. The toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. Toughest environment, the toughest environment, the toughest environment to be in. And this is it right here. The toughest you gon' ever be in. You wasn't conscious before us. Y'all niggas was asleep. We woke the sleeping giant. We did it. sa.neter TV. So stay your ass in your little box where you feel safe.
Has been over there teaching for years about Charles Darwin's theory, and people don't even recognize what the book looks like. They don't even know the title. The book is titled On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life.
What's going on, Brother Jabari? Professor
Peace.
Jabari?
I'm well, and peace to Brother Enqi. I'm glad that he's on. I just want to say really quickly that I mentioned when I was on your couch last, I guess Friday.
Last week, yes.
People often look at Charles Darwin's work and they assume that he's making a racist claim.
Uh-oh.
What I think I'm hearing Enqi do is make an argument primarily based on the title of a book. I was sitting here waiting for a while, and I would have waited longer were it not the fact that I got to get up out of here. But I want to be really clear.
Oh, so wait.
Wait,
so
let me say
Don't come off, Enqi. Don't do that.
I'm going to stop. I'm going to say this and then I'm going to stop, Enqi, because I don't want to block what you're doing. But I want you to look at page 15 of that book, and you're going to see this is something I cover with my students, by the way, because we talk about Charles Darwin. You're going to see that he describes what a race is. And in this instance, he's not even talking about human beings. In his parlance, race includes types. And he's referring to animals and plants. I think that Enqi might be thinking about social Darwinism, which was an extremely racist movement that led to eugenics. But Charles Darwin had nothing to do with social Darwinism. That is where other scholars took his work. Charles Darwin himself was an abolitionist and very clearly lectured several times on the unity of all human beings. Now, am I saying that Charles Darwin is without fault? No, he's probably a man of his era. I'm sure that there's some quotes in his book that you would read. There's some quotes. I've read his book, by the way, all 500 plus pages. I think that there's sometimes he says something and he doesn't say it in a way that I am comfortable with, but very clearly he does not describe Black or African people as inferior at all. In fact, Charles Darwin is one of the chief architects of the concept, which has been borne out by science now, that all human beings have their origin on the continent of Africa. That's in this book, and I can show you those quotes if you like as well.
Now, I'm scared to death to pop up here. So he tags in Jabari to come in and try to create intellectual arguments that Enqi is not in possession of.
Go ahead.
Since you popped in and you sitting in that seat over there,
yep,
are you saying yes or no that Charles Darwin's theory of evolution is good science, is correct science? Yes or no?
I am saying yes for its time. There have been advancements since then.
Okay.
I also heard you make the comment has nothing to do with biology. How in the world could you make that comment? I think you're making some bizarre arguments, and you're making it primarily based on a title of a book, Enqi. Look at page 15. Please, you have the book. Why don't you put page 15 on the screen so we can read?
Hold on. Wait a minute. So Jabari's filibustering the video and redirecting people's attention away from the science. Is that what we're getting ready to do? Because what I told Sa was that I was getting ready to expose the science, and we was going to make a brief stop to read the actual title of the book, which Sa didn't even recognize, from an expert that's been on his page for 5 years teaching this information. So now I asked you a simple question. Is Charles Darwin's theory of evolution correct? And you said yes. Am I misquoting you?
I said yes for its time. There have been advancements.
Okay, no. Wait a minute. It's not yes for its time. It's yes or no. Yes or no.
No one is filibustering, by the way. I answered your question.
But wait. What I'm trying to do is create a scenario.
Wait a minute. I answered your question very directly. I am not saying that every idea that Darwin put forward has been backed entirely by science, but in large part, the theories that he's put forward were revolutionary in the understanding of evolution and of genetic science. He didn't have the ability to look at DNA. That's something that came much later. He was looking strictly at fossils and came up with some really, really important ideas. And I often have my students in my class come in and say that he was racist, and that's because they're familiar with social Darwinism, which he did not create at all. His ideas were simply that some entity...
Brother, you're long-winded and it's out of place here. Listen, we're going to stick to the science, sir. We're going to stick to the science. You're long-winded and it's out of place here. So you said the theory of Charles Darwin is correct. So now Charles Darwin's theory is pangenesis. Are you familiar with pangenesis?
Are you talking about Charles Darwin's theory of evolution? No.
I'm asking you a question. Are you familiar with pangenesis? Yes or no, brother? Stop dancing.
Listen. First of all, there's no need to do all the razzle dazzle. All I'm saying is that when we look at his concepts of evolution, they were this is in the late 19th century. This is something there certainly have been some things that I think scholars would look at a little bit differently. His work is very early. He did not have the ability to look at DNA. And I think that what you have to do is look at his book. You brought up his book and you just looked at the title. Show me where, wait a minute.
Man, we're not going to do what Jabari's directing. What we're going to do is do what I'm directing, because he's coming up on Dr. Enqi's live stream. So what he has to talk about now is pangenesis. Right now, I want you to understand that people in the chat right now are Googling pangenesis. And people are saying, wait a minute, Jabari might be in trouble. So yes, let's redirect the attention of the people to talk about, you know, whether Charles Darwin was talking about free the black people or the Africans. No, let's talk about science. Let's talk about where Unc left off with modern biology. And let's talk about Charles Darwin's theory of science. Let's talk about what was the actual mechanisms that he proposed in regards to evolution, and how those things either translated to modern biology or how they got debunked and destroyed, and how they should have been left where they were 200 years ago, if not for people that are not fluent in the space, not understanding. So what you need to do now, Jabari, after you answered me directly that the science is correct, you need to stand on pangenesis and demonstrate to us the science of pangenesis, and not take us to page 15 or any other place. We need to talk about pangenesis, sir.
Okay, now let me say this to you.
Be professional, Enqi. Come on.
Everyone that is watching can see that you are the person that just did the Harlem 125th Street 3-card Monty. You're the one that brought up Charles Darwin. You're the one that looked at his book and only looked at the title of the book. Shame on you. And then you're the one that's saying, I have to talk about pangenesis, when I simply came on here responding to what you had already said. And I said to you that if you're saying that his work, the work that you introduced, brother, is incorrect, show us in the book which is incorrect. And I said, I am prepared to show you what he means by the word race. You imputed that when he talked about the preservation of race, he was talking about race in terms of human race.
I didn't say that. Whoa. I didn't say that. Because, hold on. No. You assume that. Wait a minute. Stop.
Hey, he didn't cut you off. Let him finish, brother.
You very clearly did. And I simply, I wasn't coming in here to argue. I was simply coming in here to correct, as someone who has read the work.
Okay, so if you did that, then you can.
I want you to say, as you were going through your piece on race based on a title, I said, well, brother, what you have to do is look at what he means by race. So I said to you, maybe it would be helpful for you to look at page 15, because as you know, in this environment, we show sources. Okay. And so I am suggesting, you made some comments about what he was saying
is the source.
What you are saying
no, Jabari, is the source.
Wait, what you are saying in terms of race is incorrect. And so I'm telling you to look at it. Now,
what you're saying is incorrect, because Unc, first of all, Unc relates us back to monkeys. Unc relates us back to monkeys. So if you don't understand the full context of the conversation, Jabari, you probably shouldn't jump in where you don't understand. Because the first thing that you said was that Charles Darwin's talking about plants and animals. So is Unc.
All right.
This is page 15 under domestication, right? Of the work that he just wanted to read the title of. The title. This is what he says. He says, I may add that when under nature, the conditions of life do change. Variations and reversions of character probably do occur, but natural selection, as will hereafter be explained, will determine how far the new characters thus arriving shall be preserved. That's really an interesting way to describe evolution. That's what he's doing. Look at the next paragraph. It says, when we look to the hereditary varieties or races of our domestic animals and plants and compare them with the species closely allied together, we generally perceive in each domestic race, as already remarked, less uniformity of character than in true species. Very clearly, I want you to recognize that when he uses the term race, you were attempting to make it sound like he was saying something that was white supremacist. His use of the term race is what we would maybe call genus and species, the differentiation amongst living things. And here you see him use the term race for domestic animals and plants. What you are suggesting is not correct. And so that's really what I'm here to say. And I really think that for you to debunk Charles Darwin, as you have introduced his book, let's see you debunk him using his own words. I'm the one that's showing you what he actually wrote. That's all I'm going to say.
That's all you're going to say, and then you out of here, huh? You're not going to address pangenesis. Well, you're not going to address any of the actual science in the book. You're going to divert everybody's attention to something else, and you don't even know what you're talking about, number one. Because first of all, Enqi specifically has been making these monkey claims, and me and his contention started about the monkey claims. It went from the monkey claims to great ape to great relative. After I beat him up multiple times, he changed it to say we have a primary relative, or we have a co-ancestor with the great apes, etc., etc. So what I'm saying is Jabari's entire commentary is out of place. And if Jabari is going to sit up here, see, this is the thing that I don't like.
You funny.
Hit and run. No, listen. Don't hit and run. Don't come up here and try to make a side quest into the main mission. If you up here and you're defending Charles Darwin's theory, you have to explain to us pangenesis now. Now make it make sense. Jabari, the scholar, explain to us
about pangenesis, Enqi. Tell us about it first. Go ahead. Drop it, and then let's see if Jabari can debunk it.
All of that is fine. I don't disagree with any of that. All of that is factual. But what is also factual is that Francis Galton was the primary person that experimented to prove Charles Darwin's theories were correct, and they were debunked.
Sa.neter.
You can respond, Jabari.
If I could say something very quickly.
Yes, you can respond.
I want to be really clear that the argument that Enqi is making is perhaps one of the weakest that I've seen on this channel.
Goodness.
At any time. At any time. I would love for him to find one geneticist that argues that natural selection and Darwin's theory of evolution is incorrect. I'm going to do what he's not going to do. This is not an AI overview. Can you please share the screen? Please share the screen. Okay, here goes. I'm going to show you two modern journal articles that say that the concept of natural selection, Darwin's theory of evolution, actually is one of the most helpful concepts in understanding the modern concept of biology and genetics. Here we go, an article by T. Ryan Gregory, Understanding Natural Selection, Essential Concepts and Common Misconceptions. Let's just go just to the abstract. Now here's the paper, because I would never show you a paper and just have read the abstract. I would have read the whole paper. So let's just look at the abstract for a second though. It says natural selection is one of the central mechanisms of evolutionary change and is the process responsible for evolution of adaptive features. Without a working knowledge of natural selection, it is impossible to understand how or why living things have come to exhibit their diversity and complexity. That's just where he starts. And then in the very beginning, he starts with a quote by Ernest Mayr from 1982. By the way, this article is from, what year is this? 2009. Okay, scholarly article. Let's look at this. There is probably no more original, more complex, and bolder concept in the history of ideas than Darwin's mechanistic explanation of adaptation. This is a modern journal article talking about the importance of Darwin's work. Here's another. This is in the National Library of Medicine, right? This is by Gregory Dimigian. I think I'm saying that name correctly. This is from 2012. Darwinian natural selection, its enduring explanatory power. Once again, here is the entire paper, right? Let's just read from the paper for a second, because I want you to see that what I'm showing you is what the scholars, the scientists say. I don't even understand what Enqi is doing right now. He's arguing that the theory of evolution as described by Darwin is no longer in effect. There is not one geneticist or biologist that would make that case.
Hey, hold on.
Not one.
Can I stop you?
So here we go. Take a listen to this. Evolutionary theory has never had a stronger scientific foundation than it does today. In a short review, I hope to portray the deep commitment of today's biologists. Remember, Enqi said that evolution has nothing to do with biology. Obviously, this person that has an MD, a real doctor, by the way, disagrees. Today's biologists to Darwinian natural selection and to discoveries made since Darwin's time. In spite of the scientific advances in the century and a half since the publication of On the Origin of Species, Darwin still remains the principal author of modern evolutionary theory. He is one of the greatest contributors of all time to our understanding of nature. This is what the scientists say. So I'm not sure what he's actually arguing here. Is the idea of pangenesis dated? Yes. He did not have all the tools that we had, so he wasn't able to explain how the features travel from organism to organism. That's the only part that is dated. The idea of Darwinian evolution has been supported by 150 years of scientific study.
Do I get a chance to speak at this point, or you still going?
That's a period, brother. I don't know whether sa.neter is saying that you go next,
okay.
But
so now here we go again. That was a nice segue. A part of your shtick is your cadence and your pattern of speech. But what you're doing is redirecting people's attention away from the science, which is what I've been saying since you interjected into this video. So now you showed us scientific papers that says the theory of evolution is a great contributor, blah, 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 blah. Got it. Can you pull up any scientific papers or any scientific literature that shows me or anybody else here watching? Since you got everybody's eyes, now we got the people now. Now we got the people. Can you show anybody where gemmules or gemmules are actually a real thing? Can you show us where the actual scientific, the science that Charles Darwin proposed, can you show us where that mechanism is actually correct? Can you show us that? And can we get a small, concise answer, like a yes or a no?
I want to be clear,
okay,
that Darwin's theory of pangenesis is dated. Some of his ideas of gemmules have actually been confirmed in what we would call genes today, but it is dated. No one would actually say that an organism called a gemmule actually exists. But remember, the title of this discussion is Dr. Enqi Destroys Ankh, on Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. His theory of evolution has not been overturned by scientific study. That is what the issue is. You have conflated Charles Darwin's theory of evolution with his description of how he thought maybe some of these traits were passed from organism to organisms, is what he called pangenesis. That is the dated part of the theory. But the theory, the large sweeping theory of evolution, is one that has been that is one that actually is substantiated by the research. And I just showed you two. I could show you more scientific journal articles by scientists who confirm this.
Please make an effort, brother. Please, for me, please make an effort to try. I know it's hard for you. I just want you to try to shorten these answers down. Please make an effort to do that. Okay. So here's my question. Wait. Don't cut me off, because cutting people off is a cardinal sin on over here. So we don't cut off people now. We don't do that, especially not scholarly people with great behavior. We don't do that. Right. So here's my question to you. When a theory is proposed according to the scientific method, how is that theory proven or disproven?
You're asking me?
Absolutely.
To describe the scientific method?
I'm asking you a simple question.
Wait. Let's be very clear. The scientific method is a process that scientists have developed through the process of observation and study. So what they do is they actually have a hypothesis. Then they have a bunch of studies that say, is this hypothesis true or not? That's basically the scientific method. And I want to be clear that the scientific method has corroborated Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. And so that is what those scientists are actually saying.
Okay, now hold on, because I think that you're purposely avoiding what I'm asking you, because as a professor, I know that you know better, Jabari. There's a word and it begins with the letter E. Let me help you out. There's a word that begins with the letter E. It is a essential part. See, that's how I did that. That's like a bar right there. I gave you another word with a letter E, essential, right? To give you even to double down on. So there's a word that begins with the letter E that actually backs up studies. So it's the part of the thing they're observing. Like what are they writing about in the studies? Because hypothesis and theory are almost synonyms. Hypothesis and theory are not facts. They're not facts. They're not something that's factual, or it wouldn't be called a theory anymore. It'd be called a fact. So what are the things specifically? Like what's this that E word that they use? There's an E word they use to validate hypotheses or theories. I'll help you out. It's called experiments. And so when they did the experiments, and it can't be any more biased. You don't get any more biased than your own flesh and blood. You don't get any more biased than your own flesh and blood. When Charles Darwin's own flesh and blood did the experiments, Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, the idea, the philosophy, the theory was debunked, because the actual scientific mechanism he proposed was found to be absolutely 100% incorrect. And I want you to just be honest about that. You done came up here and did all this talking, and you have not one time just said straightforward, you know what, Enqi, you're correct. In the 1800s, Francis Galton and other scientists performed experiments on the pangenesis theory and found it to be incorrect. There's no such thing as gemules. There's no such thing as that doesn't exist. That's not a real thing. Now, the concept of a parent passing information to the baby, That existed way before Charles Darwin, and you should be ashamed of yourself for standing up here defending that. And you know, we could go back, bro. So I want you to just narrow this down, and let's get back to the scientific method. How are hypotheses and theories validated or invalidated? Go ahead and give us that E word.
It's interesting that you only use the word experimentation, but the word that is usually used before experimentation is observation. That's the term that I used. I said study and observation. That is what I said. And so it would be really nice for someone who thinks that he is describing something eloquently to have a source. You have shown us none other than AI overviews and the title page of a book. You can't question what I am saying when I'm the one that showed the book that you did not show, when I'm the one that showed the 2 scholarly articles that you did not show. How in the world do you think that you are doing well here? This is beneath this community. By the way, the idea of gemmules is similar to the idea of genes. Not 100% correct. It's a dated theory. But Charles Darwin didn't have access to the tools that modern scientists do. So I want to be clear that there is no one else that would also say, well, his theory is 100% incorrect. That's not how scientists or scholars speak. They say it's dated. In other words, we have a better explanation now. You're 100% incorrect. I would love for you to find a scholar that would speak like that. But the reality is you're not reading scholars. And if you're not reading scholars, you cannot in turn be one. That's the problem here. How do you come before this community and show the title page of a book, imply that the theory you are describing is in that book when it is not, and then show us nothing but AI overviews and think that you are teaching something here? The reality is that this topic, and I want sa.neter to confirm this topic, Dr. Enqi destroys Ankh on Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, I'm quite sure that that is your title. But you haven't even discussed the theory of evolution. You've discussed pangenesis.
Well, that is Enqi's title.
I know it is, because I know you, sa.neter. I know that's his title. He didn't even discuss the theory of evolution. Pangenesis is not the theory of evolution, nor is it on the origin of species. But all you did is show us the cover page. And now you're demanding me to give more data, more information, when you have given us none. Zero.
You put it on me, so it must be my turn. Is that what you're doing?
That's a period. You could start. You could go.
Okay, because Sa put the camera on me.
Right, hold up real quick. Whenever I have someone come on and they're doing the presentation, always remember, people in the audience, it is their topic. It's not mine.